What would you do if you found a dying alien baby in your garbage? Most people would run. Some would call the authorities. But humans? We do something that defies all logic and reason across the galaxy. We feed it. This is the story of how one moment of human compassion sparked a revolution that would shake the foundations of an empire spanning 1,000 worlds. It's the story of how the galaxy learned that humans don't just survive. We nurture, we protect, and we turn the abandoned into family. Because when the rest of the universe throws something away, humans have this strange habit of picking it up, dusting it off, and making it stronger than it ever was before. Get ready to discover why the Galactic Council now has a new rule. Never underestimate the human capacity for impossible kindness. Marcus Chin stepped out of his apartment building into the cool morning air of New Seattle, coffee mug in one hand, and work bag slung over his shoulder. The massive city sprawled before him, its gleaming towers reaching toward the cloudy sky. Flying cars hummed overhead in organized traffic lanes, while holographic advertisements flickered between the buildings. It was 2387, and humanity had finally achieved the technological paradise their ancestors had dreamed of. But some things never changed. Like taking out the garbage. Marcus walked toward the building's waste disposal area, planning to drop off his recycling before heading to his job at the Interspecies Medical Research Center. The facility had been established after first contact with alien civilizations 15 years ago, when humanity discovered they weren't alone in the universe. Now, dozens of species visited Earth regularly, and Marcus spent his days analyzing alien biology to help treat the various beings who sought medical care on human worlds. As he approached the large metal containers behind his building, something caught his eye. A small movement near the base of the organic waste bin. At first, he thought it might be a stray cat or a rat. Urban wildlife had adapted remarkably well to the technological advances, finding new ways to survive among the flying vehicles and energy fields. Marcus moved closer, squinting in the early morning light. What he saw made him drop his coffee mug, the ceramic shattering on the pavement. It wasn't an animal at all. Curled up in a pile of rotting food scraps was a small creature unlike anything he'd ever seen. It was roughly the size of a human infant, but its skin was a pale blue color with intricate silver markings that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. For delicate arms emerged from its torso, and its head was larger than a human baby's, with enormous dark eyes that took up nearly half its face. The creature was breathing, but barely. Its chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid movements. Marcus's medical training kicked in immediately. He could see the signs of severe malnutrition and dehydration. The creature's skin was wrinkled and dry, its eyes sunken. It was dying. Without hesitation, Marcus scooped up the small being, surprised by how light it was. The creature felt almost hollow, as if it were made of bird bones. Its skin was surprisingly warm to the touch, and he could feel a rapid heartbeat through its thin chest. The silver markings on its skin pulsed faintly with each heartbeat. "Hey there, little one," Marcus whispered softly. "What are you doing out here all alone?" The creature's eyes fluttered open at the sound of his voice. They were completely black, without visible pupils, but Marcus could sense an intelligence behind them. The being tried to make a sound, but only managed a weak whistling noise before its eyes closed again. Marcus looked around the alley, searching for any sign of the creature's parents or guardians. The area was empty except for the usual urban debris and the humming of distant traffic. Whoever had left this baby here was long gone. His first instinct was to call the authorities. There were proper channels for dealing with alien encounters, protocols established by the Earth government's xenobiological department. But, as he looked down at the weakening creature in his arms, he knew it wouldn't survive the bureaucratic process. By the time officials arrived, filled out their reports, and decided what to do, the baby would be dead. Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. He turned and headed back toward his building. His apartment was a modest 2-bedroom unit on the 15th floor, furnished with the standard government-issued items that came with his research position. Marcus cleared a space on his couch and gently placed the alien infant on the soft cushions, surrounding it with pillows to keep it secure. The creature was even weaker now, its breathing becoming more irregular. Marcus knew he had to act fast. He grabbed his medical scanner from his work bag, a handheld device capable of analyzing basic biological functions across multiple species. The scanner hummed as it passed over the small body, collecting data and displaying readings on its screen. The results were concerning, but not hopeless. The creature's core temperature was too low, its blood sugar was critically depleted, and it was severely dehydrated. But its vital organs appeared to be functioning, and there were no signs of disease or injury. This was pure starvation. Marcus had studied dozens of alien species during his career, but this particular being wasn't in any of his databases. Its physiology was unlike anything he'd encountered before. The forearm structure suggested it might be from a high-gravity world where additional limbs provided evolutionary advantages. The large eyes indicated a species that evolved in low-light conditions. The silver markings that pulsed with its heartbeat appeared to be some kind of circulatory system visible through translucent skin. But, regardless of its species, the basic needs were universal. The baby needed warmth, hydration, and nutrition. Marcus adjusted his apartment's temperature controls, raising the ambient heat to a comfortable level for the small visitor. He then faced his biggest challenge: what to feed an unknown alien infant. In his refrigerator, he found a variety of foods, but nothing seemed appropriate for a being this young and fragile. He considered calling his colleague Dr. Sarah Washington, who specialized in alien nutrition, but that would mean revealing his discovery. Once word got out, the baby would be taken away for study. Instead, Marcus remembered something from his xenobiology courses. Most sapient species evolved from similar chemical foundations. Carbon-based life forms across the galaxy shared certain nutritional requirements, particularly in their early developmental stages. Simple sugars for energy, basic proteins for growth, and clean water for cellular function. He prepared a mixture of purified water with a small amount of glucose and a basic protein supplement that he kept for his own workout routine. Using a medical dropper from his first aid kit, he carefully placed a few drops on the creature's lips. At first, nothing happened. The baby remained motionless, its breathing still shallow and rapid. Marcus waited, then tried again, gently parting the creature's small mouth and placing the dropper inside. This time, there was a response. The alien infant's throat moved slightly as it swallowed the mixture. Marcus felt a surge of hope. He continued feeding the baby small amounts, waiting between each dose to ensure it could process the nutrition without overwhelming its system. After 20 minutes of careful feeding, the creature's breathing began to stabilize. The silver markings on its skin grew slightly brighter, pulsing with a more regular rhythm. Its body temperature started to rise as its metabolism began to function properly again. Marcus sat back on his couch, watching the small being with a mixture of wonder and concern. What had he gotten himself into? Harboring an unregistered alien was a serious crime, punishable by years in prison. The Earth government took xenobiological security very seriously after several incidents involving dangerous off-world organisms. But, as he looked at the tiny creature, now breathing more easily on his couch, Marcus couldn't bring himself to regret his decision. This wasn't a dangerous organism. It was a baby, abandoned and left to die. Every instinct he had as a human being, as a doctor, and as a decent person had compelled him to help. The alien infant stirred, its 4 small arms moving weakly. Its eyes opened again, those enormous black orbs focusing on Marcus with what seemed like curiosity rather than fear. The baby made another sound, stronger this time. It was almost musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Marcus extended his finger toward the creature, and, to his amazement, one of its small hands reached out and grasped it. The skin was soft and warm, and he could feel the delicate bones underneath. The baby's grip was surprisingly strong for something so malnourished. "You're going to be okay, little one," Marcus whispered. "I don't know where you came from or who left you out there, but you're safe now." As if understanding his words, the creature made that musical sound again, this time with what Marcus could only interpret as contentment. He looked at his watch and realized he was already late for work. Marcus quickly sent a message to his supervisor, claiming a family emergency that would keep him home for the day. It wasn't entirely a lie, he reasoned. He had just acquired a new family member, even if it wasn't human. The rest of the morning was spent establishing a feeding schedule and monitoring the baby's recovery. Marcus used his medical training to track its vital signs, noting gradual improvements in all areas. The creature seemed to be responding well to his improvised nutrition formula, and its energy levels were slowly increasing. By afternoon, the alien infant was strong enough to sit up on its own. It looked around Marcus's apartment with obvious curiosity, its large eyes taking in every detail. When Marcus moved around the room, the baby's gaze followed him, and it made soft musical sounds whenever he came close. Marcus found himself talking to the creature as he went about his day, explaining what he was doing and describing the various objects in his apartment. The baby seemed to enjoy the sound of his voice, responding with different tones and pitches that almost sounded like attempted communication. As evening approached, Marcus faced a new challenge. Where would the baby sleep? His couch wasn't safe for an infant, alien or otherwise. He improvised a bed using soft towels in a large cardboard box, creating a secure nest that would keep the creature warm and contained. The alien baby seemed to approve of the arrangement, settling into the makeshift bed with obvious relief. As Marcus dimmed the lights, the silver markings on its skin began to glow more brightly, creating beautiful patterns across its body. It was clearly an adaptation for low-light conditions, allowing the species to see and communicate in darkness. Marcus sat beside the box, watching the gentle light show playing across the baby's skin. He couldn't help but smile. In one day, his entire life had changed. He had gone from being a solitary researcher to being the guardian of an alien infant. But questions nagged at him. Where had this baby come from? Who were its parents? And why had they abandoned it? Was it the only one of its kind on Earth, or were there others? And, most importantly, what would happen when the authorities eventually discovered what he was doing? As the baby's glowing patterns slowly faded and it drifted off to sleep, Marcus made a promise. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would protect this small being. He had found it abandoned and dying, but it would never be alone again. Outside his window, the lights of New Seattle twinkled in the darkness, and flying cars continued their endless journeys between the towers. The city slept, unaware that in one modest apartment, a human had taken the first step toward changing the relationship between his species and the rest of the galaxy. The alien infant slept peacefully in its cardboard nest, its breathing steady and strong. The silver markings on its skin continued to pulse gently, like a lullaby made of light. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, for the first time in its short life, the baby was safe, fed, and loved. Marcus settled into his own bed, but sleep was slow to come. His mind raced with plans and possibilities. He would need to research the creature's species, figure out its long-term nutritional needs, and eventually find a way to register its presence legally. But those were tomorrow's problems. Tonight, he had saved a life. And, somehow, he suspected that this small act of compassion would have consequences far beyond anything he could imagine. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus Chunt discovered the alien infant in the garbage, and his life had transformed in ways he never imagined possible. The tiny creature, whom he had named Luna due to the moonlight glow of her skin markings, had not only survived but was thriving under his care. Marcus had become an expert in alien infant care through necessity and careful observation. He had refined Luna's diet, discovering that she responded best to a mixture of plant-based proteins and natural sugars. Her forearms had grown stronger, and she could now grasp objects with remarkable dexterity. Most importantly, she had begun to communicate. What started as musical whistles had evolved into a complex series of tones and patterns. Marcus realized that Luna's species communicated through both sound and the light patterns that danced across their skin. When she was happy, her markings pulsed in warm golden hues. When she was hungry or uncomfortable, they shifted to cooler blues and purples. When she was excited, brilliant silver threads raced across her skin like lightning. This morning, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with Luna perched in a specially designed high chair he had constructed from his work materials. The baby was playing with a set of soft blocks, her 4 hands allowing her to manipulate multiple objects simultaneously while her large black eyes studied each one with intense concentration. Damare, Luna said clearly, holding up a red block. Marcus nearly dropped his coffee mug. It was the first time Luna had produced anything resembling recognizable syllables. The sounds were unlike human speech, with musical undertones that seemed to resonate from somewhere deep in her chest. But they were definitely intentional communication. Did you just try to say something, Luna? Marcus asked, setting down his mug and moving closer. Damare, the baby repeated, this time pointing at Marcus himself. The silver markings on her skin began to pulse rapidly in excitement. Marcus felt his heart skip. After weeks of caring for Luna, he had begun to suspect that her species was highly intelligent, possibly more so than humans. This confirmed it. At roughly 1 month of age, Luna was already attempting to assign specific sounds to specific objects or concepts. The implications were staggering. Human infants typically didn't begin speaking until they were at least a year old. If Luna's species developed language capabilities this quickly, they might possess cognitive abilities far beyond what Marcus had imagined. His contemplation was interrupted by a knock at his door. Marcus froze. He had been careful to maintain his normal routine, going to work and interacting with neighbors as usual. Luna was small enough to hide when necessary, and her quiet nature made concealment easier. But he lived in constant fear that someone would discover his secret. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Dr. Chun, a female voice called from outside. It's Dr. Washington from the medical center. I need to speak with you about your recent absence. Marcus's blood ran cold. Dr. Sarah Washington was his supervisor, and one of the most respected xenobiologists on Earth. If anyone could recognize what Luna was, it would be her. Damare, Luna said quietly, sensing his distress. Her skin markings shifted to concerned blues and purples. Marcus quickly scooped Luna up and carried her to his bedroom, placing her in the specially padded crib he had constructed. Stay quiet, little one, he whispered. I'll be right back. He closed the bedroom door and took a deep breath before opening the front door. Dr. Washington stood in the hallway, her silver hair pulled back in its usual professional bun, and her sharp blue eyes studying him with concern. Sarah, Marcus said, forcing a smile. What brings you by? May I come in? She asked, already stepping forward. We need to discuss your recent work performance. Marcus had no choice but to step aside and let her enter. Dr. Washington was in her 60s, a brilliant scientist who had been studying alien life forms since before first contact. She had personally met representatives from over 30 different species and had authored the standard texts on xenobiological medicine. Marcus, I'm concerned about you, she said, settling onto his couch. You've called in 6-7 times in the past 3 weeks, and when you are at work, you seem distracted. Your colleagues have noticed that you're constantly checking your phone and leaving early. Is everything all right at home? Marcus remained standing, acutely aware that Luna was only 1 room away. I've been dealing with some personal issues, he said carefully. Nothing serious, but it's required my attention. Dr. Washington studied his face with the same intensity she brought to examining alien specimens. Marcus, you know you can trust me. If you're having problems, I can help. The medical center has counseling services, financial assistance programs, whatever you need. I appreciate that, Sarah, but really, I'm fine. I just need a little more time to sort things out. As if summoned by his words, Luna's voice drifted from the bedroom. Damare. Dr. Washington's expression changed instantly. Her eyes sharpened, and she stood up slowly. Marcus, what was that? What was what? Marcus asked, but he could see from her face that she had heard. That sound. It was definitely not human, and it's coming from inside your apartment. Dr. Washington took a step toward the bedroom. Marcus, as your supervisor and as someone required by law to report xenobiological encounters, I need to know what's in that room. Marcus moved to block her path. Sarah, please. I can explain. Then, explain, she said firmly. Right now. Luna's voice came again, this time with more urgency. Damare. Dr. Washington's training took over. That's linguistic communication, she said with growing excitement. Complex tonal patterns with intentional repetition. Marcus, there's a sapient alien in your bedroom, isn't there? Marcus slumped against the wall, knowing his secret was over. Yes, he said quietly. How long? Dr. Washington demanded. 3 weeks. 3 weeks, she exclaimed. Marcus, do you realize what you've done? Harboring an unregistered alien is a federal crime. You could go to prison for years. I found her dying in the garbage, Marcus said defensively. She was abandoned, starving. She would have died if I hadn't helped. Dr. Washington stared at him for a long moment. Her. Yes, her. I call her Luna. She's just a baby, Sarah. Someone threw her away like she was nothing. From the bedroom came a new sound, a low, mournful whistle that seemed to convey distress. Luna had apparently learned to recognize the emotional tone of human voices, and she could tell that Marcus was upset. Dr. Washington's expression softened slightly. Show me, she said. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He led her to the bedroom door and opened it slowly. Luna was standing in her crib, her 4 small hands gripping the padded rails. Her skin markings were cycling rapidly through worried colors, and her large black eyes were fixed on the doorway. When she saw Marcus, Luna's markings immediately shifted to warm golds, and her musical voice rang out. Damare. Dr. Washington gasped. My God, she breathed. I've never seen anything like her. Luna noticed the new person and tilted her head curiously. Her markings shifted to cautious blues, but she didn't seem afraid. Instead, she studied Dr. Washington with obvious intelligence, taking in every detail of the older woman's appearance. Hello there, little one, Dr. Washington said softly, taking a careful step into the room. Luna responded with a series of complex tones, her markings shifting to include curious purples and silver. It was clear she was attempting to communicate with the newcomer. She's trying to talk to you, Marcus explained. She's incredibly intelligent. I think her species develops cognitive abilities much faster than humans. Dr. Washington approached the crib slowly, her scientific mind racing. Her coloration patterns are unlike anything in our databases. The bioluminescence appears to be tied to her emotional state, and possibly her attempts at communication. The forearm structure suggests adaptation to a high-gravity environment or perhaps an arboreal species. Luna reached out with one small hand toward Dr. Washington. After a moment's hesitation, the scientist extended her finger, allowing the baby to grasp it. Her grip strength is remarkable for her size, Dr. Washington observed. And look at these eyes. The enlarged optical structures suggest evolution in low-light conditions. Damare, Luna said again. But this time she was looking at Dr. Washington. I think she's trying to learn your designation, Marcus explained. She's assigned that sound combination to me. I believe it's her attempt to say my name. Dr. Washington stared at the alien infant in amazement. Marcus, do you understand what you've discovered? This baby represents first contact with an entirely new species. Her cognitive development patterns could revolutionize our understanding of alien intelligence. She's not a research subject, Marcus said firmly. She's a person. Someone abandoned her, and I'm taking care of her. Someone abandoned her, Dr. Washington repeated thoughtfully. That raises important questions. How did she get to Earth? Where are her parents? Why would any parent abandon such an obviously intelligent offspring? Luna began making new sounds, more complex combinations of tones and whistles. Her skin markings formed intricate patterns that seemed almost like written language flowing across her body. She's responding to our conversation, Dr. Washington noted. Look at those patterns. I think she's trying to tell us something. Marcus moved closer to the crib. What is it, Luna? What are you trying to say? The baby's markings shifted to deep purples and blues, colors that Marcus had learned indicated sadness or distress. She made a long, mournful sound that seemed to convey profound loneliness. I think she understands that we're talking about her origins, Marcus realized. She knows she's different from us. Dr. Washington was quiet for a long moment, watching Luna's emotional display. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle. Marcus, I have to report this. You know that, don't you? Sarah, please. They'll take her away. She'll become a lab specimen. Not necessarily, Dr. Washington said thoughtfully. There are protocols for situations like this. First contact scenarios have legal frameworks now. If this baby is truly abandoned, and if she's developing normally under your care, there might be options. What kind of options? Provisional guardianship. It's a new legal classification created for orphaned alien minors found on human worlds. You could potentially become her legal guardian while she's studied, and we attempt to locate her species. Marcus felt a surge of hope. Really, it's not going to be easy, Dr. Washington warned. There will be extensive background checks, psychological evaluations, medical monitoring. Your apartment will be inspected regularly. Luna will need to undergo medical examinations to ensure she's healthy and developing properly. But I could keep her? Possibly. The law recognizes that removal from a stable caregiver can be traumatic for any infant, alien, or human. If you're willing to work within the system, there's a chance. Luna had been listening to their conversation with obvious attention. Now she made a soft, questioning sound and reached toward both adults with her forearms. I think she wants us both, Marcus said, carefully lifting Luna from her crib. Dr. Washington smiled as Luna immediately grasped her finger again. She's remarkable, Marcus. Her communication attempts, her emotional responses, her social awareness. This baby is going to change how we understand alien intelligence. Sorry, Luna said suddenly, looking directly at Dr. Washington. Both adults stared at the baby in surprise. Did she just? Dr. Washington began. She did, Marcus confirmed. She learned your name just from hearing me say it. Luna, you are incredible. The baby's markings burst into brilliant gold patterns, and she made happy musical sounds. It was clear she understood their praise and was pleased by their reactions. Dr. Washington shook her head in amazement. Marcus, I need to make some calls. We're going to do this properly, through official channels. But I think we can make this work. Thank you, Sarah. I know you're taking a risk too. Some risks are worth taking, she replied, still watching Luna with fascination. This little one is special. I can feel it. As if understanding the conversation, Luna settled contentedly in Marcus's arms, her markings shifting to peaceful blues and silvers. For the first time in weeks, Marcus allowed himself to hope that they might actually have a future together. Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across New Seattle, and the city continued its busy routine, unaware that history was being made in a modest apartment on the 15th floor. An alien child was about to become the first of her kind to be legally adopted by a human family, and the relationship between species would never be the same. 6 months had passed since Dr. Sarah Washington had discovered Luna in Marcus Chen's apartment, and the small alien had become the most famous infant on Earth. The legal proceedings had been complex and unprecedented, involving lawyers, scientists, government officials, and representatives from the Galactic Council itself. Marcus had been granted provisional guardianship of Luna under the Earth government's new Xenobiological Orphan Protection Act, a law hastily written specifically for their situation. He had undergone extensive psychological evaluations, background checks, and training in interspecies childcare. His apartment had been modified to accommodate Luna's unique needs, with specially designed furniture, communication equipment, and environmental controls. Luna herself had flourished beyond everyone's expectations. At 6 months old, she displayed cognitive abilities equivalent to a human 3-year-old. She could communicate using over 200 distinct tonal patterns, each with specific meanings. Her skin markings had become incredibly sophisticated, allowing her to express complex emotions and abstract concepts through bioluminescent displays. But, perhaps most remarkably, Luna had learned to speak rudimentary human languages. Her vocal anatomy was different from humans, giving her words a musical quality that was hauntingly beautiful. She could now say dozens of words clearly, and she understood far more than she could express. This morning, Marcus sat in the observation room of the Interspecies Medical Research Center, watching Luna interact with a team of xenobiologists through a one-way window. The testing sessions had become routine, allowing scientists to study Luna's development while ensuring she wasn't overwhelmed by too much attention. Dr. Washington entered the room carrying a tablet and wearing an expression of barely contained excitement. Marcus, we've received the results from Luna's latest genetic analysis, she said, settling into the chair beside him. Good news or bad news? Marcus asked, not taking his eyes off Luna, who was currently demonstrating her ability to solve three-dimensional puzzles while simultaneously carrying on a conversation with Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the facility's child development specialist. Extraordinary news, Dr. Washington replied. Luna's DNA contains genetic markers that don't match any known species in the Galactic Council's database. But, more importantly, we've discovered something remarkable about her neural structure. Marcus finally turned to look at her. What do you mean? Her brain is developing at an unprecedented rate. The neural pathway formations we're seeing typically take years to develop in most sapient species. But Luna is forming them in months. We think her species might be designed for accelerated development. Through the window, Luna looked up from her puzzle and waved at Marcus with two of her 4 hands. Her skin markings formed happy spiral patterns, and she called out in her musical voice, "Papa Marcus." Look, she had completed the three-dimensional puzzle, something that typically challenged human children twice her apparent age. Dr. Martinez was making notes on her tablet, her expression one of professional amazement. She's getting smarter every day, Marcus observed. Sometimes I feel like she understands things I haven't even taught her yet. That might be exactly what's happening, Dr. Washington said. We've discovered that her species appears to have a form of genetic memory. Basic knowledge and survival instincts are encoded in their DNA and activated as the brain develops. Genetic memory? Think of it as evolutionary shortcuts. Instead of having to learn everything from scratch like human children, Luna's brain is gradually accessing information that her species has accumulated over thousands of years. Language patterns, mathematical concepts, social behaviors, they're all there, waiting to be unlocked. Marcus watched Luna carefully manipulate another complex toy, her 4 hands working with coordination that would be impossible for a human of any age. Is that why she's so advanced? Partly. But there's something else, Marcus. Something that makes Luna truly unique. Dr. Washington activated her tablet and showed Marcus a complex genetic diagram. These are Luna's neural development scans compared to the theoretical baseline for her species, based on the genetic templates we've decoded. Marcus studied the colorful brain mapping, though most of it was beyond his understanding. What am I looking at? Luna is developing faster than even her own species' genetic programming suggests she should be. We think it's because of the environment she's been raised in. The environment. You, Marcus. Human-parental interaction appears to be accelerating her cognitive development beyond normal parameters for her species. The constant communication, the emotional nurturing, the intellectual stimulation, it's creating neural pathways that wouldn't normally form. Marcus felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. Is that good or bad? We don't know yet. But it's definitely unprecedented. Luna might be the most cognitively advanced member of her species who has ever existed. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from Dr. Washington's communicator. She glanced at the display and frowned. What is it? Marcus asked. We have visitors, Dr. Washington said carefully. Representatives from the Galactic Council. They're requesting an immediate meeting about Luna. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What do they want? I don't know, but we're about to find out. They're being escorted to conference room 7. Through the window, Luna suddenly stopped playing and looked directly at Marcus, despite the fact that she shouldn't be able to see him through the one-way glass. Her skin markings shifted to concerned purples and blues. Papa, she called out, her voice carrying clearly through the intercom system. Something wrong. Marcus activated the communication system. I'm here, Luna. Everything's fine. Keep playing with Dr. Martinez. But Luna's markings remained worried, and Marcus realized that she could somehow sense his emotional state even through the barrier between them. Her species' empathic abilities were still being studied, but it was clear that Luna could pick up on human emotions in ways that normal humans couldn't detect. 20 minutes later, Marcus and Dr. Washington sat across from 3 members of the Galactic Council in the Research Center's main conference room. The aliens were as diverse as any group Marcus had ever seen, representing species from across the galaxy. The first was a Zephyrian, tall and willowy with crystalline features that caught the light and reflected it in prismatic patterns. The second was a Corthan, a heavily built species with thick, armored skin and for arms, though their arm structure was quite different from Luna's. The third was a member of a species Marcus didn't recognize, with flowing, tentacle-like appendages and skin that shifted colors and patterns similar to Luna's bioluminescence. Dr. Chun, the Zephyrian spoke, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I am Council Representative Solara. We have come to discuss the infant you have been caring for. What about her? Marcus asked, immediately defensive. The unknown species member, who had been identified as a Laminian named Council Representative Thrace, leaned forward. Dr. Chun, we have reviewed the genetic analysis of the infant's DNA. We know what species she is. Marcus felt his heart begin to race. You do? She is Nilorian, Representative Thrace continued. Her people are from the Andromeda Galaxy, far beyond the reach of our usual contact zones. Andromeda. Dr. Washington interjected. That's impossible. No species has the technology for intergalactic travel. The Corthan representative, who had been silent until now, spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. The Nilorians do, Dr. Washington. They are one of the most advanced civilizations known to exist. Their technology surpasses even our most sophisticated societies. Then, why was Luna abandoned? Marcus demanded. If her people are so advanced, why would they leave a baby to die? The 3 council representatives exchanged glances before Representative Solara answered. The Nilorians have a rigid social structure, Dr. Chun. They practice what they call genetic optimization. Individuals who do not meet specific cognitive and physical standards are removed from the population. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. You mean they throw away babies they consider defective? Luna was likely deemed unfit for Nilorian society and exiled, Representative Thrace explained. This is standard practice for their species. The weak, the different, the cognitively variant, all are abandoned on uninhabited worlds to die. But Luna isn't defective, Dr. Washington protested. She's incredibly intelligent. By human standards, yes, the Corthan rumbled. But Nilorian standards are far higher. What you consider advanced cognitive development is merely normal for their species. Luna was probably abandoned for developing too slowly. Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. So they threw away a baby because she wasn't smart enough? That's monstrous. It is their way, Representative Solara said gently. We do not agree with their practices, but we cannot interfere with their internal social policies. What does this mean for Luna? Dr. Washington asked. Representative Thrace's skin patterns shifted to more serious colors. The Nylorian High Command has become aware that one of their exiled offspring has survived. They are demanding her return. No, Marcus said immediately. Absolutely not. Dr. Chun, Representative Solara continued, you must understand. The Nylorians have technology that could destroy entire star systems. Earth cannot afford to make them enemies over one infant. That infant has a name, Marcus said firmly. Her name is Luna, and she is my daughter now. I don't care how advanced her birth species is. The Korthan leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. Dr. Chun, your emotional attachment is understandable, but you are thinking like a human. The Nylorians do not recognize individual rights for exiled offspring. To them, Luna is simply failed genetic material that should have died. Well, she didn't die, Marcus said. She lived, and she thrived, and she's part of a human family now. Representative Thrace's markings shifted to what Marcus was learning to recognize as surprise. Dr. Chun, are you saying you refuse to surrender the infant? That's exactly what I'm saying. Dr. Washington placed a restraining hand on Marcus's arm. Marcus, please consider what you're saying. Earth's relationship with the Galactic Council can go to hell, Marcus finished. I'm not giving up Luna to be executed by some species of genetic purists. The three council representatives sat in stunned silence for several moments. Finally, Representative Solara spoke. Dr. Chun, humans have a reputation throughout the galaxy for being unpredictable. But what you are proposing is essentially declaring war on one of the most powerful civilizations in existence. Then, maybe it's time someone stood up to them, Marcus replied. Through the conference room's windows, the afternoon sun was setting over New Seattle, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Somewhere in the research center, Luna was probably playing or learning something new, unaware that her future was being decided by politicians and diplomats. Marcus thought about the small alien baby he had found dying in garbage 6 months ago, and how she had grown into the bright, loving child who now called him Papa. The idea of returning her to a society that had deemed her worthless was unthinkable. Representatives, Marcus said calmly, I appreciate your visit and your concerns. But my answer is final. Luna stays with me. The three aliens exchanged glances again, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. Very well, Dr. Chun, Representative Solara said finally. We will relay your decision to the Nylorian High Command. But I feel compelled to warn you, they will not accept this quietly. Let them come, Marcus said. They'll find that humans don't abandon our children, no matter what species they are. 2 years had passed since the Galactic Council's warning about the Nylorian High Command, and life for Marcus Chun and Luna had settled into a routine that felt almost normal, despite the constant security presence around their home. Luna, now approaching her 3rd birthday in human terms, had grown into an extraordinary child whose abilities continued to astound everyone who met her. She stood nearly 3 feet tall, with her 4 arms perfectly coordinated and her large black eyes sparkling with intelligence that sometimes seemed almost ancient. Her skin markings had become incredibly sophisticated, capable of displaying complex mathematical equations, artistic patterns, and emotional states that were far more nuanced than any human expression. Luna could speak fluently in 6 different human languages, as well as communicate in the native tongues of 12 alien species. Her cognitive abilities had developed to the point where she often helped the researchers at the medical center solve problems that had puzzled them for months. But, perhaps most importantly, she had become completely human in her emotional development. She laughed at jokes, cried when she was hurt, and showed the same curiosity and mischievousness as any human child her age. Marcus was no longer just her guardian. He was truly her father in every sense that mattered. This morning, Marcus was awakened not by his alarm clock, but by Luna gently shaking his shoulder with 2 of her hands while the other 2 held a cup of coffee. Papa, wake up, she said in her musical voice, which had deepened slightly as she matured. Big ship coming. Marcus sat up immediately, his parental instincts triggered by the unusual urgency in Luna's tone. What do you mean, sweetheart? What big ship? Luna's skin markings were cycling through worried purples and alert oranges, colors Marcus had learned to associate with danger. Ship like my birth people, she said carefully. Luna had always referred to the Nylorians as her birth people, distinguishing them from her real family. Coming to Earth. Very big. Very fast. Marcus grabbed his phone and checked the emergency alerts from Earth Defense Command. There were no notifications, which was strange if an unknown vessel was approaching Earth space. Luna, how do you know about this ship? Marcus asked gently. His daughter's markings shifted to embarrassed blues. I can feel them, she admitted. My birth people have mind connections across space. I try not to listen, but this one is very loud. Marcus had suspected that Luna possessed telepathic abilities, but she had never demonstrated them so clearly before. The implications were concerning. If she could sense Nylorian mental communications, then they might be able to sense her as well. What are they thinking about? Marcus asked. Luna's markings darkened to deep purples and blacks. They angry, Papa. Very angry. They want to take me away. They say humans are. She struggled with the translation. Inferior species who steal their property. Marcus felt cold anger rising in his chest. After nearly 3 years of being Luna's father, the idea that anyone could consider her property was infuriating. Luna, listen to me very carefully, Marcus said, taking her small hands in his. You are not property. You are my daughter, and you are a person with your own rights. No one is going to take you away from me. Promise, Papa? I promise, sweetheart. 20 minutes later, Marcus's communicator began buzzing with urgent messages from Dr. Washington, Earth Defense Command, and the Galactic Council. He answered Dr. Washington's call first. Marcus, you need to get to the medical center immediately. Her voice was tight with stress. A Nylorian battlecruiser just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. It's massive, bigger than anything in Earth's fleet. How long do we have? Marcus asked, already gathering Luna's emergency bag. They're demanding immediate surrender of Luna, or they'll consider Earth to be harboring stolen Nylorian genetic material. They've given us 6 hours to comply. Marcus looked at Luna, who was listening to the conversation with obvious understanding. Her markings had shifted to determine golds and silvers, the colors she displayed when she was preparing to face a challenge. Papa, Luna said quietly, I can stop them. What do you mean, sweetheart? I know things now. Things from my birth people's mind connections. I know how their ships work, how their society works. I can make them understand. Marcus knelt down to Luna's eye level. Luna, you're just a little girl. This isn't your responsibility. But, I'm not just little girl anymore, Luna replied, her musical voice carrying a note of maturity that seemed beyond her years. I'm Nylorian and human both. I can speak for both peoples. An hour later, the main conference room at the Interspecies Medical Research Center was filled with Earth's top military and scientific leaders. General Patricia Hammond, head of Earth Defense Command, was coordinating with fleet commanders while Dr. Washington worked with xenobiology experts to analyze every piece of data they had on Nylorian technology. Luna sat in a specially designed chair at the conference table, her 4 hands folded calmly in her lap, while her skin markings displayed patient, determined patterns. To the adults in the room, her presence was both inspiring and heartbreaking, a 3-year-old child who was somehow their best hope for avoiding interstellar war. The Nylorian ship is maintaining position at the edge of our system, General Hammond reported. They've refused all attempts at communication except to repeat their demand for the child's immediate surrender. What about the Galactic Council? Marcus asked. Aren't they supposed to mediate disputes like this? Council Representative Solara, who had arrived an hour earlier, shook her crystalline head sadly. The Nylorians have withdrawn from council jurisdiction in this matter. They claim it is an internal affair involving the recovery of stolen genetic material. Luna's markings flashed angry reds at the words stolen genetic material, but she remained calm. May I speak now? She asked politely. The adults in the room turned to look at the small alien child, and Marcus could see the mixture of hope and desperation in their faces. What do you want to say, sweetheart? Marcus asked gently. Luna stood up on her chair so she could see everyone in the room. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical tones of her species, but the words were in perfect English. My birth people think humans are weak because you don't throw away children who are different, she began. They think being kind means you are not strong. They are wrong. She paused, her markings shifting to brilliant golds and silvers that filled the room with gentle light. I was thrown away because I learned too slow for Nylorian ways. My birth mother left me in garbage to die because their society said I was not perfect enough to live. But humans found me, and humans loved me, and humans made me strong. Dr. Washington was taking notes rapidly, recognizing that Luna was revealing crucial information about Nylorian psychology and social structure. Now I am stronger than any normal Nylorian child, Luna continued. I know human compassion and Nylorian intelligence both. I know 6 human languages and 12 alien languages. I can solve mathematical problems that puzzle your best scientists. I am not weak because humans raised me. I am stronger. General Hammond leaned forward. Luna, are you saying you want to confront the Nylorian ship directly? Yes, Luna replied simply. I want to show them what humans can do. I want to show them that throwing away children makes their society weaker, not stronger. Marcus felt his heart clench with fear and pride. Luna, it's too dangerous. What if they just take you and leave? Luna looked at her father with eyes that seemed far older than her 3 years. Papa, they cannot take me unless I choose to go. I know their ship systems now from the mind connections. I know their technology better than they think. Representative Solara's crystalline features reflected the conference room lights as she leaned closer to Luna. Child, what exactly are you proposing? Luna's markings shifted to confident blues and golds. I will go to their ship, but not as prisoner. As ambassador, I will speak for Earth and for all children who are different but still valuable. Absolutely not, Marcus said immediately. I'm not letting you anywhere near that ship. Papa, Luna said gently, her markings softening to patient purples. I love you. You saved my life and made me part of human family. Now I want to save other children like me. I want to stop my birth people from hurting families like ours. The room fell silent as everyone considered Luna's words. Finally, Dr. Washington spoke. Luna, if you did go to their ship, what would you say to them? Luna's skin began displaying complex patterns that seemed almost like written language. I would show them their mistake. I would show them that human love makes children stronger, not weaker. I would challenge their high command to test me against their best young minds. You mean like a competition? General Hammond asked. Yes. If I can prove that a defective Nylorian child raised by humans is superior to their perfect children, then they must change their ways. Nylorian society respects strength above all else. I will show them that human kindness creates strength they cannot imagine. Marcus looked at his daughter, seeing not just the small alien child he had rescued from garbage 3 years ago, but a brilliant young being who had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. Luna was proposing to risk everything to protect not just herself, but all the other children who might be abandoned in the future. Luna, Marcus said slowly, if you do this, and if something goes wrong, I might never see you again. Luna reached out and took his hand with 2 of hers, her skin markings forming heart-shaped patterns. Papa, you taught me that love means protecting people, even when it's scary. Now I want to protect other children who might be thrown away like I was. General Hammond activated her communicator. This is Hammond. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. We're sending an ambassador to the Nylorian ship. General, Marcus said, I'm going with her. Papa, no, Luna said firmly. This is something I must do alone. But I promise I will come back to you. Humans keep promises, and I am human now too. Marcus knelt down and hugged his daughter, feeling her 4 small arms wrap around him in return. Her skin markings formed the gentle, loving patterns he had seen every night when he tucked her into bed. I love you, Luna, he whispered. I love you too, Papa. Now let me show the galaxy what human love can do. The diplomatic shuttle carrying Luna approached the massive Nylorian battlecruiser, with Marcus watching helplessly from the observation deck of the Earth Defense Station. The alien vessel was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, creating prismatic rainbows that danced across its surfaces. It was easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest warship, and its very presence in their solar system felt like a threat hanging over the planet. Luna sat calmly in the shuttle's pilot seat, her small hands manipulating the controls with precision that amazed the Earth pilots accompanying her. She had insisted on piloting the craft herself, claiming that approaching in a human-operated vessel would send the wrong message to her birth people. Luna, we're receiving a transmission from the Nylorian ship, Captain Sarah Morrison reported from the co-pilot's seat. They're demanding to speak with you. Luna nodded and activated the communication system. When she spoke, it was not in the musical tone she used for human languages, but in the pure harmonic frequencies of ancient Nylorian. The response from the battlecruiser was immediate and harsh, a series of discordant sounds that made the human crew wince. But Luna's expression remained calm, and her skin markings shifted through complex patterns as she responded. Back on the observation deck, Marcus stood with Dr. Washington and General Hammond, watching the exchange through the station's powerful telescopes. Translation computers were working frantically to decode the Nylorian language, but Luna was speaking too quickly and using concepts too advanced for the systems to keep up. Can anyone tell me what they're saying? Marcus asked, his voice tight with worry. Council Representative Solara, who had been listening through her own translation equipment, looked troubled. The Nylorian High Command is surprised by Luna's linguistic abilities. They did not expect her to speak in the traditional formal dialect of their ruling class. Is that good or bad? General Hammond asked. I'm not certain. They are questioning how a discarded offspring could have learned such sophisticated communication patterns. On the shuttle, Luna continued her conversation with the Nylorian ship, her markings now cycling through authoritative golds and silvers. She was no longer speaking like a child asking for permission, but like an adult demanding to be heard. Fascinating, Dr. Washington murmured, watching Luna's body language through the telescope. Look at her posture, her gestures. She's not behaving like a 3-year-old anymore. Marcus could see it too. Something had changed in Luna the moment she began speaking her birth language. She seemed older, more confident, as if accessing parts of her genetic programming that had been dormant until now. The communication continued for several more minutes before Luna turned to Captain Morrison. They will allow me aboard their ship, she announced. But they consider this a formal challenge to Nylorian authority. If I fail to prove my worth, they will destroy Earth's fleet and take me by force. Luna, you don't have to do this, Captain Morrison said gently. Yes, I do, Luna replied, her markings now displaying determined patterns. This is bigger than just me now. If I can change their minds, I can save countless other children who will be abandoned in the future. The shuttle docked with the Nylorian battlecruiser through a crystalline airlock that seemed to grow from the ship's hull to accommodate the Earth vessel. Luna stepped through the interface alone, her small figure dwarfed by the massive alien architecture. The interior of the Nylorian ship was breathtaking and intimidating in equal measure. Corridors of living crystal pulsed with bioluminescent energy, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with electromagnetic fields. Luna walked through the passages with confident steps, her own skin markings responding to the ship's energy patterns. She was escorted by 2 adult Nylorians, beings that looked like larger, more refined versions of herself. Their markings were more subdued than Luna's, displaying only the formal patterns appropriate for their roles. Neither spoke to her directly, treating her with the cold indifference reserved for genetic failures. The journey ended in a vast chamber at the heart of the ship, where 5 members of the Nylorian High Command waited. They were ancient by their species standards, their skin bearing the complex scarring patterns that marked the highest levels of Nylorian society. Their markings were almost entirely silver and gold, indicating absolute authority and genetic perfection. The central figure, clearly the highest-ranking member, looked down at Luna with obvious disdain. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate through the ship's very structure. Luna listened respectfully, then responded in tones that matched his authority. The exchange continued for several minutes, with Luna's markings growing brighter and more complex as she spoke. Back on the Earth station, the translation computers finally began producing partial transcripts of the conversation. The High Command member is questioning Luna's right to speak to them, Representative Solara reported. He says that discarded genetic material has no voice in Nylorian society. Marcus clenched his fists. And what is Luna saying? She is, oh my? She is challenging their fundamental assumptions about genetic superiority. She is claiming that their abandonment practices weaken rather than strengthen their species. On the Nylorian ship, Luna stepped forward into the center of the chamber, her 4 arms spread wide as her skin markings erupted in brilliant patterns that painted the crystal walls with shifting light. When she spoke now, her voice carried the full harmonic range of mature Nylorian authority, impossible for a child her age according to everything the humans knew about her species. I am Luna Nylorian, she declared, using a naming convention that had never existed before. I am the child you threw away, raised by humans who value life over perfection. I challenge the wisdom of the High Command. The ancient Nylorians recoiled, as if struck. In their society, children did not speak to adults as equals, and genetic failures certainly did not challenge the High Command. You claim that abandoning the weak makes your people strong, Luna continued, her markings now cycling through patterns so complex they seemed like living art. But I am proof that you are wrong. The humans who found me did not see weakness, they saw potential. They did not seek to create perfection, they sought to nurture growth. Luna's voice grew stronger, carrying harmonics that resonated with the ship's crystal structure. I have learned things that no purely Nylorian child could learn. I understand compassion, which your people call weakness, but which is actually the greatest strength in the universe. I understand sacrifice, which your people fear, but which creates bonds stronger than any genetic programming. I understand love, which your people have forgotten, but which makes any being capable of greatness. The High Command member who had first spoken stepped forward, his markings shifting to challenge patterns. You speak of human concepts that have no meaning in our society. Prove your worth through demonstration, not words. Luna nodded calmly. I accept your challenge. Test me against your finest young minds. Compare my abilities to those of children you consider genetically perfect. But know this, when I surpass them, you will understand that your society's greatest flaw is not weakness in your genetics, but weakness in your hearts. What followed was a series of tests unlike anything in Nylorian history. Luna was presented with mathematical problems that typically challenged adult Nylorian scholars, spatial reasoning puzzles designed for their most advanced young minds, and linguistic challenges that required understanding of dozens of alien languages and cultural concepts. In every test, Luna not only met the standards set by the Nylorian High Command's most promising children, she exceeded them. Her forearm coordination allowed her to manipulate complex three-dimensional puzzles in ways that even pure Nylorians found impressive. Her understanding of mathematics went beyond mere calculation to include intuitive leaps that solved problems in seconds rather than hours. But it was in the final test that Luna truly demonstrated the difference between Nylorian genetic perfection and human influence growth. She was presented with a scenario that had no correct answer, a moral dilemma involving the sacrifice of one being to save many others. It was a test designed to evaluate logical decision-making under pressure. The Nylorian children who had taken this test before had all chosen the logical solution, sacrifice the one to save the many. It was the mathematically correct choice, the one that preserved the greatest genetic value. Luna studied the problem for a long moment, her markings cycling through thoughtful patterns. Then, she looked up at the High Command and spoke. The correct answer is that the question itself is wrong, she said. You asked me to choose who lives and who dies, but humans taught me that the right question is, how do we save everyone? She began outlining an alternative solution to the scenario, one that involved risk and sacrifice, but preserved all the lives involved. It was a solution that required cooperation, creativity, and the willingness to risk failure in pursuit of a perfect outcome. The High Command stood in stunned silence as Luna finished her explanation. Never in their society's history had anyone challenged the fundamental assumptions behind their tests. The eldest member of the High Command, who had not spoken throughout the entire trial, finally stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. Child raised by humans, he said. You have demonstrated abilities that surpass our greatest young minds. You have shown us perspectives that our perfect genetics could not produce. You have proven that our assumptions about strength and weakness may be incomplete. Luna's markings shifted to respectful patterns, but her voice remained strong. Honored elder, I ask not for myself, but for all the children who will come after me. Will your people continue to abandon those who are different, or will you learn what humans understand, that diversity creates strength? The elder was quiet for a long moment, his ancient markings cycling through patterns of deep contemplation. The High Command will consider your words, he said finally. Return to your human family, Luna Nylorian. You have earned the right to choose your own path. 3 hours later, Luna's shuttle docked with the Earth Defense Station, and Marcus was waiting in the airlock. When the doors opened, and Luna stepped through, he swept her up in his arms, feeling her 4 small hands clutch him tightly. Papa, Luna said, her markings bursting into joyful golds and greens. I did it. I made them think. You were incredible, sweetheart, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you. Dr. Washington approached with a communication device. Luna, we're receiving a transmission from the Nylorian ship. Luna took the device and listened to the harmonic patterns, her markings shifting to surprise and then to wonder. What are they saying? Marcus asked. Luna looked up at him with her large black eyes shining. The High Command has issued new guidance to all Nylorian worlds. Children who develop differently will no longer be abandoned. Instead, they will be studied to understand what makes them special. That's a start, Dr. Washington said. But, more importantly, Luna continued, her markings now cycling through proud patterns. They want to establish cultural exchange programs. They want to learn about human child-rearing practices. They want to understand how love makes children stronger. Marcus hugged his daughter closer, marveling at how a small alien baby found dying in garbage had grown into a being capable of changing the perspectives of an entire civilization. Luna, he said, you've done something amazing today. You've shown the galaxy that humans don't just take care of their own children. We take care of all children who need us. Luna's markings formed the gentle, loving patterns that Marcus had seen every night for 3 years as he tucked her into bed. That's what families do, Papa, she said simply. They love each other and make each other stronger. Outside the station's windows, the Nylorian battlecruiser was already beginning to fade from view as it prepared to return to its home galaxy. But it carried with it more than just the memory of an abandoned child who had proven her worth. It carried the revolutionary idea that strength came not from genetic perfection, but from love, acceptance, and the willingness to help those who needed it most. On Earth, the story of Luna Nylorian would become legend, the tale of how one human's compassion for a dying alien baby had sparked a transformation that spread across the stars. And, in the years to come, when other abandoned children from other worlds found their way to Earth, they would discover what Luna had learned 3 years ago in a pile of garbage behind a new Seattle apartment building. Humans don't abandon their children. Ever. Even when those children come from the stars.